Hey guys, this is James with The Grind, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about things to stay wary of when hiring someone for your team. So as you interview candidates, trying to find the right person to become an employee and somebody that's a part of your team, one of the first few things whenever you're meeting them in person for their interview, firstly, I like candidates to show up, early for their interview. 10 to 15 minutes is ideal. So if somebody's showing up right on time, or even if it's like 1 or 2 minutes late, that may not come off as this job being the number one priority. There's always things, I know that there's traffic and wrecks and whatever can happen on the way, and those are, the outstanders. But as far as just a normal day, if they're not there a couple of minutes early at least to be prepared and be calm and ready for the interview, just keep your eye out on that. First impressions are everything, and they should know that as well. So if another thing to keep in mind is, as they do show up, if they seem tired or lethargic, especially if it's a morning interview, just know that that's how they're probably going to present themselves after they're comfortable in the job. So you want them to be energetic. You want them to have, bright eyes, professionally dressed, groomed correctly, all of those things. They need to be on their A game for the interview, because in my mind, however they present themselves in the interview, that's the best version of themselves, or hopefully they see it that way. Now, after the interview, one of the other things to keep in mind is just their follow-up. So obviously we want them to be prompt and to do it, as quickly as possible, complete sentences, grammar, all of those good things. But any kind of a follow-up is what we're looking for at this point, and how quickly they can get in touch with you. And thank you for giving them the opportunity. That's the main thing here, because you want them to be grateful for the opportunity to work for you, so that if they do get the job, they're happy and excited to come in. So follow-up is key. Some hiring managers won't even move forward if there's not a follow-up. I wouldn't go that extreme. I just think if you can combine that with a couple of the other red flags, maybe it is time to look somewhere else. Nextly in the process, as you've interviewed them, maybe you have received a follow-up, things are looking good, it's time for you to do references if your recruiters haven't already done it. We typically do it prior to the first kind of submission, but at some places it's more it's a part of their process to do it right before the next step, right after the first interview. And so if that is your process, if they're not able to provide those references either in the initial conversation or right off the bat, you ask for references, they're able to give them to you. If it's like drawn out, it takes them 4 or 5 days to get them to you, a little bit of a flag there. In addition to that, if they do provide references, but maybe the references don't answer the phone after you've tried them 4 or 5 times and left messages, that's another issue. I can provide you with a phone number that will never be answered right now. So it's one of those things where I hate to be completely negative about each candidate, but just keeping your eye out for all of these things. If they are, if you see that they're starting to compound together and a candidate's showing multiple signs of what we're talking about, that's when to be a little bit concerned in their candidacy. But mainly with the references, you're just looking for a timely response by the candidate, and then a timely response from the references that they provided. As far as how they interact with you, you don't want someone who seems disinterested in the opportunity, somebody who seems like they maybe just are interviewing everywhere. Even if they are, they should have at least shown that they've done a little bit of research about your company and have a simple understanding of what the job entails and what the duties are for them once they come in. You want them to speak specifically into why they think they're a fit for your specific role. If they can do that, they've done some research, they actually look like they have some skin in the game, and it looks like they're pursuing it. One of the things that I also always try to keep an eye out for is in the interview process, if you ask them about previous roles or previous colleagues or bosses, just anything to spur up a conversation about their previous engagements. If they talk poorly or trash or just bash an old manager or maybe an old employee that they worked with, or they talk really negatively about something, it's one thing to be respectfully happy that you've moved on from somewhere. But if you're going after personal attacks on people's character or how things were handled very specifically in an interview, I don't see that as the most professional way to handle that question in any means. I don't think that attacking someone's character based on your experience in an initial interview, nonetheless, is ever acceptable. So that's one of the things that I would look at. And this kind of leads into, as we close out this short little segment, is follow your gut when talking to these candidates. If you're in a position to hire, you've obviously worked up to that role, and just try to understand where they're at. Give them a little bit of grace, but also follow your gut. If something's not sticking right with you about a candidate, dive in deeper on it. And if it's still not, don't move forward with them. But you want them to be a good culture fit. This is one of the things we've talked about in previous videos, was hiring for the culture and not hiring for the piece of paper. So as you go through the reference checks, as you see them in person, as they interact with you, as they follow up with you, as you go through all of the steps that you need to make this decision, just keep the main goal in mind, which is to have somebody who can functionally do the job and do it well, but also who fits into your culture and what your goal for the culture of your company is. I don't know, that's just something to keep in mind as you move through this process. Is your ultimate goal. Have that in the forefront of your mind as you talk through these candidates. And then at the finally, just in conclusion, remember that they're human and some things may hiccup. You may have some hiccups in the process, and so just give them a little bit of grace. Like I said, you want to hopefully, you want to have hope that they are who they say they are and they've done what they say they've done, and that they are a quality candidate. You always want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you also need to do that with a discerning eye. You want to be able to not expect the worst by any means, but just be mindful of the opportunity that they could be misleading you a certain way. So it's a fine balance. It's hard to give somebody the benefit of the doubt while also thinking critically, but if you can find that balance and go through these processes and just read them more as a human and more as a fit for your culture, that's what you should be hiring on. And if you are working with a recruiter you trust, let them do a lot of this sourcing for you. They should know you well enough to be able to tell you about their personality and their character through their conversations and process. And if they can't, they should probably refine their process, or you should find a new recruiter. So anyway, that's a few of the things to look out for. I know that there's a ton of things that we didn't get into as far as dress code and all of the basics, but I'm assuming you know those things. These are just some of the intangibles that I see where if a candidate has multiple issues with what we've talked about, typically that's a big red flag for me, and I'm not going to move forward. So hope this helps. If you want to know more about some of the other more tangible things to keep an eye out for, reach out to me. We can do more videos on this type of stuff. Subscribe, follow. All my stuff's in the description below and links below. So hope you guys are enjoying it. We'll talk soon. Thanks.